Welcome. We still have people popping in here. So I was telling the group before we started that I decided to go with this background today to represent all the works of literature that we're going to be reading this term. Um, I'm trying to keep it light about that because we are going through it at a pace. I'm trying to do everything that I can do to help with that. I've already reduced the reading list a little bit. Um, and I'm trying to do these video lectures to help with that also. What else in terms of announcements? Progress reports go up on Friday. You will not have any grades for your progress report for East. I'm just telling you right now. The only grades I'm going to be putting into East that I can foresee will be the same grades that are going in for Blackboard. So I've already told administration that there's not going to be a grade for the progress report. There will be, I think there's 3 or 4 grades for the marking period, but sometimes it works out like that because the assignments for STC don't start until this week. So if you have a coach that needs a grade, if you have a parent that needs information, you can tell them the reason why there's not a grade and they can contact me and I can tell them you're doing fine. I'm not worried about anybody with their grades. But I just want to let you know because they're 2 weeks off. When we start the fall semester, they start the same week, but pretty much, but when we start in the spring semester, it's usually way off. So there won't be anything for the progress reports on Friday. Another piece of information, I don't know if any of you had Mr. Medrano, the math teacher. Um, he's okay, but his house caught on fire yesterday. There were a number of houses. I don't know. I think it was over in like Las Brisas over there. Um, and I think that's over by Northbridge. And several houses, because of the winds, were catching on fire. And we just got word this morning that his house is one that completely burned down. So keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers if you know him, or even if you don't. He's a wildcat instructor, so I think he teaches algebra. Anyway, he's in that same hallway with Mr. Ramos and Mr. Valdez and Miss Perry. So just keep some good thoughts there. I want to start with the calendar. So the calendar, obviously, we're still continuing with it. I've laid it out for the term. I've pointed this out a few different times. This is going to be your go-to to know when I'm talking about which material in class and which class days I will be live doing Zoom. So obviously every Tuesday and Thursday and then every other Friday. But if you need like a guide of what is going to be presented, you can look here. I'm going to give you a tour of the Blackboard today and show you where the links are for that if you haven't already bookmarked this calendar for the term. But I'm also graying out the days that we already completed. That's more for me, but maybe it helps you too, so that I can see what's on tap for that week. So this week, I'm going to go through Blackboard with you the way that it's set up. It's different than the first semester. I want to show you where the discussions are and, where you can locate things so that it's, it makes sense to you. Also, we're going to work with the second part of Gawain today. On Thursday, I'm going to go over the syllabus and we're going to start on the Canterbury Tales. So there's some reading that you need to do for the introduction to Canterbury Tales and a little bit of the general prologue. You don't have to read the whole general prologue. It's like 20 pages. I feel like we can just get a flavor for what it's like. Anywhere that you see page numbers on the calendar or in Blackboard is going to refer to the PDF that I have shared with you. Hopefully you downloaded it when I asked you to when we first started, because you can go and get a textbook. I've alerted them and they have a list of people who can get the textbook, but I don't know if anybody's going to do that. I'm going to put the page numbers from the PDF because I think that's the easiest for everybody. And then I'll also entertain some questions on Thursday about the discussion post that is due on Friday. Our first discussion post is due this Friday. I talked about it in class this past Friday. So if you missed that, you might want to go and check out the video for that, because I was walking everybody through the expectations and how it's going to be graded and what I'm looking for, and so on, so that you can get a solid grade for that right out of the gate. So I will show you where that is in the Blackboard when I do the tour in a second, but you can also go back. I think it was a short class period, maybe half an hour. You can put me on 1.5 speed and it could be, 20 minutes or whatever. But, if you just go into the discussion thing and do it without understanding the expectations for it, then I don't know how that's going to turn out for you. So that's why I wanted to highlight that on Friday. And then I'll answer questions on Thursday. So maybe between now and Thursday, if you haven't started answering that question, you should be able to start answering that question. My suggestion on Friday was to get a document going and just kind of, maybe copy paste the topic in there and just start working gradually throughout the week on that response so that you've got a good solid response. Also, if you do it in a document, you can do a word check. There's a word minimum on it. So that's a good suggestion. So by Thursday, you should have at least started on it, I would hope. I mean, you can go in on Friday and just type it out if you want, but if I'm assuming that you want to ensure a good grade. So I'll answer any questions. We'll go to the topic, and yeah, the responses, right. So the departmental guideline is 500 words for your post minimum. And I talked about minimums on Friday, and 150 word minimum on the responses. You need to do 3. So yeah, so it's a pretty intensive assignment, but keep in mind that there aren't any quizzes, there aren't any other assignments other than reading. And then the first paper comes up in February, we start working on it, and it's due in March. So yeah, usually I bring up the idea of the paper a little bit early, but yeah, there is a word limit also for the responses. So that's what's up for this week. Let's go to Blackboard. Can you make sure that your Blackboard is operational and that you can see the course? If there's a problem, I'd like to try to handle it this week so that it doesn't linger for you. When you open the course, it should look like this. If there's an issue, you can message me in chat or send me an email, and we can try to work on figuring that out for you. I mean, I'm assuming that if everybody was in the first semester, it's just that I know that the counselors were moving people around and so on the last couple weeks. So this is what you should see on the Start Here page. The Start Here page is always the basic info, my contact information. There are some key links on this page that I want to point out because they'll probably save you some time unless you have these things already bookmarked. This is the Zoom link for our class sessions. This is a link to that calendar, the one we were just looking at. So it's front and center there for you. If you sign up for office hours, there's a different Zoom link that I use for that. So that one is here. If you need to do formative because you were absent, there's a link to it there. This is a link to the playlist of all the videos that I keep adding every time we have class. So all the class videos are there if you're ever absent and you need to go and watch any of those. I'm just adding to the same playlist from the fall. There's no need to change that. Same thing with the Google Classroom as the back channel. I'll send alerts and announcements and post things that aren't, official class material on that. And they haven't given me a new one for this term, so we'll just continue with the old one. Something that's new on this start page is that there's a feature where you can sign up for a Zoom call. Okay, good. Blackboard looks good. You can sign up. If you need to meet with me and you want to have a Zoom call, you can use this website called You Can Book Me. And what it does is it brings up all of my available times, and you can just click on whatever time, you know, like say you want to go over a rough draft of your paper, or you have a question, you want to spend some time talking with me about a reading, or you're worried about your grade, or, you know, maybe you're working on scholarship applications, seniors, and you want some feedback. So if anything comes up like that, you can email me, but you can also go to this, and it's linked up with my calendar. And so from 4 to 5, pretty much every day, you can just click on a time and put in your email, and we can set up an appointment, and it pops up as an appointment in my calendar automatically. So so we can have a Zoom call if that's necessary for you. It automatically blocks out times that I have meetings or things like that. So it should be showing all of my available times for the term. So that's right here if you feel like you need to do that. You can also email me and just say, hey, I have this question, or could you look at this for me, or whatever. The rest of this page is just basic background that you're going to want to look at. There's all this traditional stuff that we're supposed to put in here, some policies. You can read through this at your convenience. The course requirements, what's going to be required, the objectives, the stated departmental objectives for the course, the required textbook. I am not going to link the PDF on here because I don't think that's super legit. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Netiquette, I don't notice any problems with netiquette, but all these things we are required to put in here. Also in the start here section, the syllabus is here. I'm going to go over that in class on Thursday. I don't want to take class time to go through the Blackboard and the syllabus today, but the syllabus is located here. It's the official one, so you can have a look at that if you want to ahead of time. If you're having technical problems with your Blackboard or anything else on JagNet, anything like that, there are resources in here. They supplied that, the college supplied this link, so it's the college stuff that's linked there. And then here are the policy statements that also show up in the syllabus. They want to make super sure that you know that there are discrimination protections and disability allowances. And here's a link to the student handbook in case you need to look something up. So all that stuff's on the main page there. Where you're going to spend most of your time, though, probably is in course content and discussions. Let me show you discussions real quick, just because I've already talked about the discussion that's due this Friday, the discussion post. If you click on the discussion board, you'll see that the first two are already here. That's because this semester is structured in units. And there are two discussion posts for this first unit. And so I just put them both up. The other ones will come up as we move into the other units. So this is the one, I made it really big so that you would see the due dates. They're the same as the calendar. So this week, Friday, the post is due for this question that we outlined about heroism in Beowulf and in Gawain. And the replies are due by the 25th. So everybody should post their 500-word post in this discussion board. Here, you can click right here and get that. I think it pops up here. So the topic is here. If you need to go back to that page that is in the website where I went over all the requirements, what's going to make a good response, a fair response, and a poor response, there's a link right here, and I'll do that at the beginning of each forum so that you can refer to that if you need to with the examples and all of that. Here's the topic, and then here's where you create your thread. You will not be able to see your classmates' posts until you post your own. But if everybody posts by Friday, which is the deadline, and part of your grade is being timely with your posts, then you have until Monday at the end of the day to post your response. I'm deviating a little bit from the department. They wanted to make, they had them originally, all the commentary posts had to be done by Sunday. I don't know. I feel like Sunday maybe is a day to have some time for yourself or your family. I don't know. Maybe that's old fashioned, but I moved it to Monday. So it's fine with me. As long as you submit by the end of the day, it's like 11:59 at night on the Monday. So the due date for the whole thing is going to be that posting day for the responses to your classmates. That's why I put the 2 due dates here so that that's less confusing. So the discussion boards are here. You can preview the question that is coming up for next Friday because that's available. It's also in Unit 1. But discussions is where those will pop up. So as we move through the units, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 12 will start popping in here. All right, let's go to course content. You should see 1 unit. There are 6 units in this term, so approximately 2.5 weeks per unit. It is not going to be organized by week. It will be organized by unit. What's organized by week is your calendar. So you'll kind of use the calendar and the course content to work your way through the material. So when you click on there, it gives you this table of contents. Let me go back. You've already seen all this material for Unit 1 because I copied it into that temporary website so that we could get started. Found it on Saturday. I wasn't supposed to do that, but I feel like it gives us a little breathing room in the term to stretch things out just a little bit. So this is just the background information that was already presented to you on the website. The objectives are here. So what are the goals that we have for this unit? The readings. So this is a list of all the readings. I'm listing the calendar here so that it's easy access for you. If there is an alternative text, like a summary, I put that here. I put links to, this looks a lot like the website because I just copy pasted it from the website. But all the page numbers here also will be for the PDF. So if you have a textbook, you might have to look in the table of contents of the actual textbook to figure out what the pages are in the textbook because they're different. In any case, here are all of the readings for this unit. Down here coming up is the Canterbury Tales. So the page numbers are here. I want to point out, because we're starting that for Thursday, you should start reading Canterbury Tales for, have some of it read for Thursday. I think it's the background information and the general prologue. Let's check the calendar. Yeah, the background information and the general prologue. So you can see here that there are some substitute texts. Some of the stuff that we're reading is really old. The textbook sometimes translates it and sometimes doesn't. And Canterbury Tales is one that they have in there in kind of the Middle English. So I'm presenting to you as options other ways to read that text. So the page numbers in the PDF are here. You'll see what I mean when you start looking at those PDF page numbers. Interlinear text means that this is a version where the original version, that's what's in your textbook, with a translated one interspersed, so it's easier for you to read. I don't think it's necessary for you to read the Canterbury Tales in Middle English. That's excessive. So here's an interlinear translation. Also, on the tales, you'll see that I've added prose version. So if you would rather read it in story format, which is going to be even easier than interlineary, you can go to this PDF and it will be written, instead of in verse, it will be written in paragraphs. So you might find that easier to read. I think you should be aware of what the original text looks like, but this is not a Chaucer course. So, as long as you read the material, and Wife of Bath's prologue and tale is quite long. It's 14 pages in this prose version. So you can see that that reading assignment in the PDF is, you know, fairly long. The prologue and the tail goes from 299 to 327. So in the PDF version, it's 28 pages long. So what I'm saying is you might find the prose version a little bit easier to read. And so you have all these options when you're reading. I've tried to make that as easy as possible for you. So we're already finishing up with Gawain and moving into this section down here, which we'll finish up next week. We should finish up Unit 1 next week. Okay, so then there's some other background reading, which should also look familiar to you because I put this on the website. It's just sort of a breakdown of key terms for each of the readings. All right, then you will see discussion 1. Same question, you can launch it here and go into the discussion, or you can access them over here. But it's a reminder to do that. Discussion 2 is also there because both of them are in this unit. I created 2 folders at the end of the table of contents. Right now, video lectures doesn't have anything in it, but I'm going to be importing my these daily discussions that we do about the material in there if I can figure out how to do it. I want the YouTube videos to embed, and I'm working on the code for that. But in any case, other materials is where you'll find other things that we'll be working with during that unit. So for example, when you go to other materials, you can click on the Beowulf family tree diagram and the study questions, which we're going to work with today for Beowulf and Gawain. So that's the structure. When Unit 2 pops up, it will show up here in course content and it will say Unit 2, I think it's called the 14th and 15th centuries or the Renaissance, I forget what they call it. In any case. So pretty much that's how it's set up. Your grades and all that stuff are over here. Starfish, if you haven't been looking at Starfish, you probably need to. They're really trying to incorporate that from STC in all the courses. Starfish is kind of like your progress reports. They have us fill those out 2 or 3 times a term. But that's how it plays out. You can change your navigation on this table of contents. I don't have that on my view, so I was playing around with that. You can minimize it. That's pretty much how all the units are set up. So this is the navigation for that section. I imagine the part that you'll be using the most will be the readings so that you can make sure that you're up to date for the reading dates. Is there anything that I haven't touched on here in Blackboard that you're wondering about? Anybody unable to access their Blackboard, please reach out to me so that I can help you figure that out. I'm checked to make sure everybody was enrolled in the course. So everybody should have access unless there's an issue with your password or something like that. All right. I don't see anything in the chat about that. So I'm going to move on. Today, I wanted to wrap up with part 4 of Gawain. And I think it's not too hard to read. Do you all want, I didn't do the PDF notes because I thought maybe what we would do is go through these study questions for Beowulf and for Gawain that are listed here. So maybe you had a chance to look at them. I was going to put you guys in some discussion rooms to break this up. So let's do it this way. I'm going to put you guys in some discussion rooms and I'm going to give certain questions to certain groups. So there's a lot of questions for you to look at as a whole. And then maybe what we'll do is come back together and the group can kind of briefly talk about what they discussed in their group. So how many we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 people. Let's do 2 rooms. Let's do a room for Beowulf and a room for Gawain. And we'll have room number 1 for Beowulf and room number 2 for Gawain. And I just want you to have a little discussion about the items that are there. Maybe you might want to jot down some notes throughout your discussion. And we'll come back together at, after maybe, what time is it? 8:43. We'll come back together at maybe like 9:05. And we might have to extend a little bit of this into Thursday. I don't want to take up more time than is allotted to me for synchronous time. But let me go ahead and make the rooms. And if you're in room 1, I want you to discuss these Beowulf questions. You should have them on your Blackboard. And if you're in room 2, I want you to discuss these Gawain questions. And we'll see where we are in about 25 minutes or so. So let me go ahead and make those rooms.